How many times have you walked by posters in your office which celebrate diversity? How many times have you been put on these posters, used for promotion, but not actually promoted? How many times has your difference been publicized, but your success not prioritized? How many times? For many of us, it's been far too many times. I'm Prasanna Ranganathan, and as a legally blind, second-generation immigrant, LGBTQ person of color, diversity is my story. I will be talking about diversity and how, if we truly desire a better country, we will no longer speak of it as an ethereal concept, but recast it as a shared value in which we all have a stake and role to play. Indeed, if we truly desire a better country, then we must seek out diversity, not just in general terms, but within the fabric of our institutions, and more specifically, within marginalized communities themselves. Our population tells the story of a diverse country. According to Statistics Canada, 20% of all Canadians were born elsewhere and immigrated here. By 2036, nearly 50% of the population will be immigrants or children of immigrants. Persons with disabilities, 13.7% of the adult population and growing quickly. 5% of all Canadians identify as LGBTQ, and this number is growing, particularly as people in younger demographics self-identify. Women account for 50.4% of the population, and the Indigenous population grew 20% between the 2006 and 2011 censuses. However, despite these figures and their growth, we have not seen corresponding increases in the representation of these groups in employment, education, or film and cultural representation. Indeed, while our demographics tell the story of diversity, our institutions continue to fall woefully behind in reflecting this reality. Okay, stop. I have to stop. I have a confession to make. I hate the word diversity. I hate it. I think it absolutely fails to capture the truth of what it is we are seeking. Diversity makes it seem like the other, the mysterious, the unknowable, a foreign concept, divorced from reality. Diversity draws a picture of a world that at its baseline consists of white, heterosexual, non-disabled, cisgender men. The act of diversity seeks to populate this world with women, visible minorities, LGBTQ people, Indigenous people, and persons with disabilities. Under the diversity paradigm, it is not our world, nor are we a part of it. Instead, I choose the word inclusion. Inclusion views the world as comprising the full spectrum of identities and experiences, as including all of us. Starting from a place of inclusion, the focus then becomes on reflecting all of these voices, perspectives, hues, histories, colors, reflecting them all within the fabric of our institutions in employment, education, and cultural domains. Through inclusion, we are not the other, adding color to a neutral canvas. Through inclusion, we belong and know that we have a voice and stake in our country and its success. In simplest terms, diversity is the poster without the progress. Inclusion is admission, not omission. We have abundant research on the benefits of inclusion, that inclusion results in more robust, multifaceted solutions to the most complex problems in our society, and that through inclusion, stereotypes and myths about marginalized people are dispelled. More attention, however, needs to be paid to the idea of inclusion within marginalized communities. Because inclusion is not just about the representation of marginalized voices in privileged society, but about the representation of different experiences within marginalized communities themselves. And this is where the concept of intersectionality emerges. Our identities are not forged on linear planes. How a particular law, or movement, or program impacts one person is quite different than how it will impact another, often even within the same community. For instance, Black Lives Matter protesters at the 2015 Toronto Pride Parade called attention to the different experiences of LGBTQ people of color. The Women's March on Washington and its many sister events throughout Canada highlighted the need to represent the voices, experiences, and concerns of women of color, women with disabilities, and trans women in the movement. Underlying these examples is the notion of privilege, and the idea that privilege is not simply the exclusive tool of white men against marginalized communities, but that privilege can spread its tentacles within all communities and movements. Privilege, in this context, exists when a group is singularly marginalized and can focus on the sole axis of oppression without concern for other forms of discrimination. For instance, a white straight woman can focus on sexism and misogyny alone without the intersection of racial oppression, issues that an Indigenous woman must also deal with. History is replete with examples of this privilege in action, of incremental progress rather than inclusive change. For instance, in Canada, women obtained the right to vote in 1918, but all Asian women did not have the same right until 1948, and all Indigenous women did not have this same right until 1960. We must move from incremental progress to inclusive action, from the long-standing idea of, we're gonna win first, and then when we do, we'll bring you along, to the idea of, let's have a conversation and build the world we want together. We must pursue intersectionality at the outset. By doing so, we create movements, laws, programs, initiatives that include everyone. Inclusion at the outset fosters conversation, engagement, and understanding. Inclusion at the outset makes us all responsible for the success of our country. Let me be clear, intersectionality is hard. Inclusion is hard. Our institutions do not automatically evolve to mirror the demographic realities of our country, nor are we capable of building movements that include all experiences at the outset in the quest for rights. Historical injustices and malice continue to seep into our current realities. Fear of losing privilege and losing opportunity prevent current power structures from evolving. My dad, who's in the audience tonight, came to Canada from India almost 50 years ago, and with my mom made our home here. When talking about Canada in the context of desiring a better country, I can't help but think about how they came here for better opportunities and the chance to make a difference. Canada has welcomed us and paved the way for me to be where I am today, to stand before you and speak about inclusion without fear or shame, but with the same hope of my parents, to strive for better and make a difference. So please, please, do not put us on the poster. Include us in the boardroom. Do not put us on the poster. Include us on screen in leading roles. Do not put us on the poster. Include us in the movement. Because if we desire a better country, it must include all of us, from the first discussion that launches a movement for change to the highest positions of leadership in our land. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.